Good ball.
Thanks.
You talk about contracts, they think about players being greedy. I think most of them just want to be treated fair.
That's it, fairly. I mean, the first thing they think is like...
You know, especially if you know you're better than, like...
Oh, my gosh. 50 other people, yeah. Yeah, that's why I was always fighting about money with them, with the Rams. I wanted $1 million. Just pay me $1 million. They pay me like I should be, like I'm playing. That's all I want.
No,
I said, pay me like I'm a quarterback.
That's
and
always
I
the big
won't forget,
issue,
they said,
guys.
we'll never pay a running back $1 million. Never.
Well, they never had a running back like you.
You're going to be a football player when you grow up?
Today is the best day of your life. Believe it.
He might be the finest quarterback produced in the last 10 years.
He needs to be like that's all I need.
Fortunately for me, I didn't lose my life, didn't lose my job. Football convinced me that life is a team game.
Rest of your life, nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it.
How do we determine our value? To ourselves and to others. It's a question that has followed Eric Dickerson since high school, when he was the #1 running back recruit in the country.
One school came to the house. They brought a briefcase. And my mother came in. She said, Eric, she said, they got a briefcase in there. They got $50,000 in cash. So I've never seen that much money in my whole life. She said, but I'm going to tell you, if you don't want to go to that school, do not take this money. I don't want you to do that. But it was just crazy. You know, coming by your house, I mean, coaches would come by our house, and I'm sure yours too, and yours, at 1 in the morning. You know, Eric, you know, really, you know, if you don't think about coming here, I could lose my job. I'm like, lose your job? I mean, we're in the middle of the night. But that's how the recruiting process was.
You know, we tried to recruit him to USC. There was something about Eric that was different. You know, I mean, he was tall. He looked like a racehorse out there. Half the defense is afraid to tackle him, and the other half are too slow. So, see, you're gone. He'd run for a touchdown.
What was your second choice, by the way?
To go to school?
Yeah.
Really, my second choice was SMU. If it was left up to me, I'd have been a Sooner. I won't forget when Coach Switzer, he came to my house several times. The last time he came, I told him, yeah, Coach, I'm in. I want to come. And I won't forget, my mother was sitting there, Viola was sitting there. She was real quiet. And my mother, when he walked out, she said, you're not going to school there. I mean, listen, you ain't going to school there. I said, I don't like that man. I don't trust him. So.
Getting past Viola proved difficult, especially if a school came on too strong.
University of Texas, they came in. One of the coaches said, come on, let me talk to you, son. He said, look like you're not interested in your state school. We know you like SMU. He said, SMU will never beat us, ever. He said, I'll tell you what, son. He said, if you don't consider your state school, we'll make sure you don't get a job in the state of Texas when you get out of college. And I mean, it kind of threw me back. I think I'm a kid. I walked away from him, went back. I said, Mama, make him leave. She said, huh? She said, I want him to leave. And she said, what did he say to you? And I told him, she said, oh, hell no, you would never go to that school. So that's why I always hated Texas, because they were just so arrogant. And so I committed to A&M. I ended up committing to A&M through pressure from...
Word has it, they made a little commitment to you, too.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about, whatever.
Oh, I do remember the car, the Trans A&M. Yeah.
The story has always been that Texas A&M gives him a Trans Am to play for the Aggies, and he parked it at SMU. And then they called him, and they wanted their car back, and he said, or what?
All right, I'm gonna tell you the real truth about the Trans Am, since everybody wants to know. It's been what, 40 years about the Trans Am. The Trans Am was bought by my grandmother. That's who bought the Trans Am. That's the story. That's what I'm sticking with.
He's gonna take that to his grave. That Trans Am was purchased by his mom.
They couldn't disprove it. She had the money for it, and I had the Trans Am.
That Trans Am later became mine. Yeah. No one gave me any money.
Sold it to my friend Charles Drayton, and I got another car, a Corvette, you know. My grandmother upgraded me.
And it wasn't just isolated at one school.
It was the whole
It was
culture.
all schools.
Everybody was doing
When you
it.
talk to the guys that went to Texas, they would say, "Oh yeah, I get $1,000 a month." So you go to A&M, "Oh yeah, I got a car."
But they weren't your cars, right? I mean, you guys just drove cars,
We just
right?
drove the car. We just drove the car. I mean, the car happened to be out there, key in it with your name in it.
Ultimately, it was more car salesman than car that sold Dickerson on SMU.
Ron Meyer could sell you a bag of rattlesnakes and tell you, "Look, this is what you do. You put your hand in there. They're not going to bite you. I promise you. You're going to pull out a wad of money." And you'd believe it, like, "Okay, I'll stick my hand in." I mean, Ron was just a real smooth guy.
He still is.
I think Ron Meyer carried a great deal of pull, but I think the check that he probably had in his pocket had more.
There was no envelope in the hand. But, was Eric taken care of at SMU? Yeah. Did we buy him the car? No. We may have put gasoline in it, but we sure as hell didn't buy it.
Our first scrimmage at SMU, I'll never forget, we had a linebacker coach, Steve Sidwell, who actually went on to coach in the NFL for a long period of time. And Eric was just killing the defense. And Sidwell, he had this really big voice, and I'll never forget him walking up and down the sideline. He's, "Men, I just hope he's that good. I just hope he's that good." He was just that good. Couldn't contain him. You never knew when he was going to break the big run, but you knew it was coming, so you never wanted to leave your seat.
And he used to run, and you could never hear your feet hit the ground. I think, how's he doing that? Just effortless.
Dickerson teamed with Craig James, number 32, to form one of the most potent backfields in the country, the Pony Express.
Simply stated, they are two Mustangs with horsepower.
Basically, we'd rotate games.
That's it.
We would start.
Yep.
We rotated series.
Yep.
And time and again, we would come off and say, "We're wearing them out."
He'll lose his position, if he lets up, and I'll lose mine if I let up. So in that way, we both have to stay on our toes.
I mean, people ask me this all the time. "Man, you could have won the Heisman Trophy. You didn't split time." I say, maybe. I say, but I look at it like this here. I say, when I got into the NFL, I say, I felt like I was fresh. I hadn't been beat up. So I just felt like we saved each other.
Yeah, we did.
Despite sharing a backfield with James, Dickerson went on to break Earl Campbell's all-time conference rushing record.
SMU in the early 80s, I think some people forget just how good they were. And Eric Dickerson was, the main catalyst of that.
In 1982, Bobby Collins replaced Ron Meyer, who left for the NFL. The Pony Express rolled on, beating rival Texas and Dan Marino's Pitt Panthers on their way to an undefeated season. A single tie versus Arkansas was the only blemish on their record. Yet SMU was passed over for a national championship in favor of Penn State.
Joe Paterno was awarded a national championship that year. We had a tie, they had a loss.
We were the best team in the country that year, bar none. They can say the best team money could buy, whatever you want to say, but we felt that that was our national championship.
The Mustangs felt cheated. Worse yet, cheating at SMU would soon threaten all that Dickerson and his teammates helped build.
Football is king on a lot of American campuses, and that's especially true at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, where it has a long and strong tradition. But critics say there's another long-standing SMU tradition, one of cheating in the recruitment of high school football stars.
Shady recruiting practices were common in college football in the early 80s. But it was Dickerson's old school that got caught and made an example of.
People blamed us like it was our fault, like we did it, we were still there. I'm like, I was in the pros when they got to death penalty. I was long gone. I mean...
Yeah. And it really bothered me for a long time. We went to SMU and loved going to SMU. There were some knuckleheads that were allowed to go to SMU afterwards. And that's the reason for the death penalty.
Dickerson's NFL legend would far outweigh the scandal that surrounded him as a Mustang. And it all started with a rookie season for the record books in 1983.
watching him run. It looked like he never really got hit hard at all.
I used to watch him run off tackle, and if the shoulders would come back and the head would come out, he'd go, oh, baby, you know, here he goes.
People think that I ran high. I only ran high when I got in open field. If I came through the line of scrimmage, my shoulders were down. So if you came up to hit me, you better bring it. I wasn't an Earl Campbell type, but I wasn't easy to tackle.
He just looked like no other. Just to watch him with the glasses and the goggles and the curl coming out of his helmet.
Nice Jerry curl. Only his had a little bit too much.
He had too much Jerry in it.
A little too much Jerry.
I'd hate to be the maid that had to make up his bed.
Oh, my goodness.
He was styling, man. I took some of his sunglasses. Aviator with the gradient color thing happening. Got the Jerry curl. That's where I got my Jerry curl from.
And he put these goggles on, and it looked like Poindexter.
The goggles were a necessity. I had to have them. I'm blind as a bat.
There's a prescription in those goggles that's so bad that if you put those goggles on, you could put your hand in front of your face, and I guarantee you couldn't see your hands.
I hated the goggles, don't get me wrong, but I felt naked without them. Like almost like playing without a helmet.
No one looked like the rookie from SMU, from head to toe.
He got every pad on he could get. You know, he'd go around the line and say, whoa, that's a good pad, let me have that.
Could you go through all the different pads you put on and why that you think a guy like yourself wouldn't wear any?
Well, all right, first of all, I started with my knee pads, you know, very thick knee pads. My thigh pads aren't that big. Then my hip pads, they're a little different from everyone else. They come above my ribs, so I can have my ribs protected. And then I wear a flak jacket, you know, give me extra protection up here. Then I have my pads, 2 sponges on each shoulder. Then I wear my neck roll and my goggles and my mouthpiece, which goes around my lips.
I don't know how you ran so fast with all that stuff on. I saw you running down the field against the Jets. I said, somebody's gonna catch you.
Gets back to Dickerson, turns left, cuts inside, out to the 30, 35 to the 40, to the 45, to the 50, down to the 35, down to the 25, down to the 10, 5, touchdown, Eric Dickerson, 85 yards.
The thing that I remember about that run was watching DBs run at him, and then all of a sudden they're just reaching at him, and they were losing their balance. It was like they weren't concerned about catching him anymore. It was like, how do I keep from falling down here? And I remember at that point in time licking my chops at the possibility.
Dickerson's flashy play on the field belied a young man who liked to keep to himself, who bought a house high in the Malibu Canyon, an almost 2-hour commute to practice.
At the time, it was next to a big open kind of pasture that had a whole lot of horses. So he said it made him kind of feel like he was in Texas.
Eric is a country boy from a country town, Sealy, Texas.
Sealy is like this big, and you can like get around Sealy in like 5 minutes.
Sealy's a cow town, known for the Sealy Posturepedic mattress, but really it's nothing there.
After the games, when I was in high school, we go to the 7-Eleven. You know, that's where all the kids would go.
There it is right here. It's called the Sealy Fuel Express. It used to be 7-Eleven right there. It was not a lot to do. We'd go out and chase cows at night, you know, for fun, seriously. It's a football town. On the left side, probably about halfway down, that's where my mom and dad used to sit. Every time I come in here to run and work out, I still look over there at where they used to sit at.
At heart, Dickerson was a mama's boy, even though the woman who raised him wasn't his biological mother.
My situation is that I was legally adopted from inside of my family. My mother, Viola, she was really my great aunt. Everybody knew us as Aunt Red. And her husband was my dad, Kerry Dickerson. My real mother lived right next door, Helen. They told me that was my sister, so I always thought she was my sister. But my parents had a big impact. My dad was a good man. I always say if I could be half the man my dad is, I'd be a good man. I can still see him sitting right here. He'd come out here before the games and sit here and read his Bible. He wasn't a sports guy. I mean, he wanted me to do well at it. That's one thing he said. His saying to me, and I remember this saying like it was yesterday, all you do what you might. Things done by halves are never done right. So he said, if you're going to do it 100%. And I plan to play it 100%.
Dickerson had the greatest rookie season a running back has ever had, rushing for 1,808 yards and 18 touchdowns. He set his sights on an even bigger record in 1984.
When you saw how Eric did last year, were you at all surprised?
No, not really. He's just, I think of him as a stallion.
Unlike at SMU, Eric Dickerson did not have to share a backfield in LA. He was the workhorse, who set a record with 390 carries as a rookie.
He's just getting started, just getting warmed up. Nice job, Eric.
And the Rams' go-to player had a go-to play.
We were down in Tampa, and we ran 47 gap. And I'm looking at two DBs. All they have to do, to me, is stay on the angles that they're on, and they're going to run and get him. Well, they took 2 steps, readjusted their angles, and tried to head him off at the pass, and he went right between them.
Dickerson pops it up the middle of the 40, to the 30, to the 20, to the 10, to the 5, touchdown!
If there was a play that a person was born for, you were born
at 47 gap, boy. This was my steps. I'd go back like this here to give a guard and tackle time to pull. Because at first, I used to do this, like the jab step, and I'd be on them too fast. So he said, you got to figure a way to slow it down.
Right.
So I just came up with this like little jab step like this here, turn sideways, they hit, and I'm right on them, looking downfield.
You block down with part of the line, so you get part of the line going this way, you get 2 pullers coming this way, and then Eric's back here kind of steps and he has a wide view. And if there was the lane that you intended, he was going to accelerate into that lane.
When's the first time you ever heard of O.J. Simpson?
Oh, God, let me think. I guess when I was about 14 years old, if I can recall. I'm not sure, but I mean, his name was a household word back in Sealy.
As a senior at Sealy, Dickerson rushed for over 2,000 yards to lead his small town to the Texas State Championship. He met the NFL's 2,000-yard rusher on a recruiting trip to USC.
I saw O.J., I'm going to go and say something to him. Because I was a big fan. I was a big O.J. fan. Because he was tall and I was tall. So I said, hey, Mr. Simpson, my name is Eric Dickerson. I'm from Sealy, Texas. Really? I said, I play running back. Oh, yeah? I said, I had 2,000 yards this year. He said, oh, congratulations. I said, I want to break your record one day. He said, okay, well, good luck to you. I said, well, thank you. And that's what I said to him.
Go ahead. 200 in there.
2003. That was the record number of yards O.J. Simpson rushed for in 1973. Dickerson would need to average over 125 yards per game to break it.
I kind of got caught up in the whole idea of breaking the single-season rushing record. I mean, that's a special, special number.
Come on, let's get it rolling now. Let's get it rolling.
It was a couple games, and he like, Eric, we behind pace. You got to pick it up. I don't know how many I got. You got 78 yards. You got to pick it up. I'm like, all right. So by the third quarter, how many got 130? All right, good. Just pad on some more. Just put on some more yards.
You said last night, don't ask, but I have to ask. How do you feel?
I happen to be a fan of Eric's, and I knew when I broke the record that one day it was going to be broken. They're not monuments, they're goals. They're going to be broken, and I'm just happy that it's a player of Eric's caliber who is doing it.
With 2 weeks to play, Dickerson was 211 yards away from the record.
Oilers, they were talking. I mean, you ain't gonna get no 200 on us today. And I'm like, oh, dog, I'm gonna break this record on y'all's ass today. We were getting close. I think I needed like 8 or 9 yards. We got in the hole. Jeff kneeled down. Everybody was standing. I was standing. He looked at me and said, what play you want? I said, 47 gap. He said, 47 gap it is.
He's got it, and a brand new single-season rushing record for the
thing that made that record so special is that all the players were involved in it. Every guy wanted a piece of that. They were just like, man, Dick, man, go out and get it today. I mean, and that made me feel good. And I think that's what that record means to me, that 2105.
So many people said you can't do it, you know, or he's not that good. You hear all these negative things, and then when you do it, then people got to stand back and say, well, maybe so.
In the span of 2 months in 1984, both the single-season rushing record and the all-time rushing record had fallen. Walter Payton received a Lamborghini for his accomplishment. Dickerson's sponsor, Adidas, had a different reward in mind.
Everybody's there, and they pull up a cake, a big carrot cake, like for a birthday. And they're like, well, congratulations. Congratulations, that's it? A carrot cake? I think Dennis, one of the guys, stuck his hand in the cake. Man, there's no key in this cake. Walter Payton get a car and you get a cake?
It was an embarrassment to me that they didn't do anymore. A carrot cake?
That's what I got. When you run for 2,000 yards back in those days, you got a big carrot cake. And I couldn't even eat the cake. I'm allergic to nuts, so I couldn't even eat it.
Everyone wanted a piece of the new record holder. Appearances in exercise videos and on Soul Train showed off Dickerson's moves. But it was in a magazine spread where he just showed off.
What in the world? What in the world is going on here?
Oh, gosh. That magazine, that come back to haunt me.
Have you seen this before?
Be honest with you, Jackie.
This is the first time I've seen it.
I never subscribed to Playgirl before.
No, me either.
But I never seen underwear that little before.
My embarrassing moment with this magazine was, I'm in Toronto, Canada, at a hotel, and a lady, she looks at me, she says, you're Eric Dickerson, aren't you? And I say, yes, ma'am. You know, she's like, I guess she's 60. Oh, you fine. I got that Playgirl magazine. Oh, my gosh. I was so embarrassed.
I'm shocked and dismayed.
I can't believe that wasn't all up in the locker room.
Me either. That's bulletin board material.
Eric said I refused to take off my clothes. He was like, no way would my mother.
I had to tell her first, because she didn't know what Playgirl was. I said, it's a men's magazine. What kind of men's magazine? I said, well, Mom, I said, no, I ain't gonna do this. I said, but they naked. Naked? You ain't taking your clothes off? I said, no, I'm not taking my clothes off. Look at the embarrassing.
Up next, fame would not equal fortune for Eric Dickerson.
I'm loyal, but if I get in my mind that you not, I'm like, hey.
I've asked the Rams to pay me the same salary that other successful running backs are now being paid. As soon as the Rams Vice President John Shaw has agreed to extend my contract for 3 years, I will join the Rams in training camp.
Since he arrived in L.A., Eric Dickerson was perceived to be tight with a buck, the man from Sealy, who kept his money hidden under a mattress.
Eric is cheap. Eric is, let's find another word. Eric ain't gonna spend no money.
Well, he was called a lot of things. Squeaky, tight pockets.
Jack Benny. Jack Benny, I know, I heard it all, man. Look, I wasn't making a lot of money. You know, I can buy all these extravagant gifts, but, you know, I would share the wealth a little bit.
Like, I remember when he gave us the stainless steel Rolex here. I'm still wearing my stainless steel Rolex. Stainless steel Rolex.
You know, he gave me one, too.
Yeah, this is when he set the rookie rushing record. And then, of course, the very next year, he set the 2,105 yard, the single season rushing record, you know.
After rushing for nearly 4,000 yards in his first 2 seasons, Dickerson felt he was in line for a raise.
He deserved to be the highest paid running back, and he wasn't. He was like maybe 8th on the list.
I mean, I'm still happy to be playing with the Rams, but I don't want to be a fool either. I have to look out for Eric.
Man, I never went a whole lot. I didn't want to, but they wouldn't bug. Man, the Rams are cheap, but they didn't have any money.
They didn't have any money?
Found that out later. I met the banker that used to bank for the Rams. He said, one time Jim Everett came in to deposit a check and it bounced. You know, the Rams are always shifting money around.
We learned later how much pressure John Shaw was under. I mean, because the Rams didn't have money to give. I mean, they didn't have it.
Totally untrue. Totally untrue. It's a system that was difficult for players. There was no free agency. So the club had most of the negotiating advantage.
It almost became like a joke to them, because, you know, how they had us all over a barrel.
Yeah.
You couldn't do anything. Like, what you gonna do? Sit out? Okay, go sit out.
The holdout lasted 47 days. Dickerson took a beating in the press.
I mean, I got so much hate mail. Call me greedy, ingrate, you know, the N-word, all that kind of stuff, you know. I mean, it was difficult. My mother hated it. I won't forget her saying, she said, I hate that you even show them your talent. They don't deserve it.
I think we won the first 2 games without Eric, and I think that helped to get him back. You know, I mean, they could win a game or 2 without me, you know, but we wouldn't have won many more.
Dickerson returned in Week 3 to lead the Rams to their only division title of the decade and a playoff rout of the Dallas Cowboys.
That's a nice piece of running, showing you, look at this and take that. He had a cornerback trying to get to him, but he just put it down into another gear. That's fun to watch.
Hey, man, I'm going to tell you something. They call that play, I said it's going to be a touchdown.
Dickerson set an NFL playoff record with 248 yards rushing. Former teammate Craig James was there to see it.
I have no idea how we worked this out, but we're playing out there at the Raiders, and Eric was playing, I guess, in Anaheim. And basically, Eric left me tickets, and 2 or 3 of my teammates and I went to watch him play. And you ran for 250 yards that day. I mean, he was like, I was watching him play at Sealy again.
Brock turns out and pitches off to Dick. Oh, hard right at the 40, 35, 30, down to the 20, 15, down to the 10, to the 5, touchdown! Whoa, did he do that? Yes!
So I remember saying, hey, take care of your business, man, because if we can win next week, you guys win next week against Chicago, we'll play in the Super Bowl. Man, how cool would that have been?
We always say that would have been the greatest thing.
Chicago got us both, though.
Yeah, Chicago got us for sure.
There were too many guys wherever Eric went. We didn't have the right plan. No one had the right plan against the Bears that year.
In 1986, with Steve Bartkowski, Steve Dills, and rookie Jim Everett splitting time under center, the Rams relied on their superback more than ever. Dickerson delivered with 431 touches for over 2,000 yards from scrimmage.
Give to Dickerson, wants to throw a pass out of it. He has David Hill in the end zone. Over the touchdown.
Having Eric back there was just so comforting. My first game, you know, I threw him for touchdowns and this and that. Eric quietly just had another 100-yard game. That's just Eric just having 100. It's like, that's a big deal. But for Eric, it's like, you mean he didn't get 200? What was wrong?
I heard that all the time. You know, he makes it look too easy. He doesn't run hard. It was always a slight on me.
Dickerson played under expectations usually reserved for a quarterback. In the playoffs against Washington, he rushed for 158 yards, but he fumbled 3 times, and for what seemed like the first time, was caught from behind.
Darrell Green caught Dickerson and prevented an 80-yard touchdown run.
I think one thing y'all have gotten very small to having 2,000 yards and 1,800-yard seasons. And, hey, you know, that's just not possible every year, I don't think.
In '85, the Rams had only extended Dickerson's contract. Now he wanted a new one that would reflect the value of the team's most valuable player.
I told John, I said, I'm your quarterback right now. We don't have one.
It's just like you're in the first year of an extended contract. We're never going to redo this right now.
I said, John, I led the league in rushing this year. No, you didn't. Walter Payton did. I said, John, I led the league in rushing. No, Eric, I'm still making fun of him. No, Eric, literally argue over it. He said, let me get the book out. Ooh, I just wanted to choke him. So he goes, oh, you did. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Finally, that offseason, Dickerson demanded a trade. The Rams refused, at first.
Things got done for Eric, not because of Eric's agent, but because of Eric's mouth.
See, one thing about me is I'm not a bull. If you don't want to know the truth, don't ask me. They asked me how I feel about my contract. I said I'm not happy with it. I'm not happy with the team. They asked me about John Robinson. I say, let him run 47 gap. I say, you know, he making more money than me. Let him run it. And that hit the paper, and it was like, let John Robinson run 47 gap.
If he was directing any verbal abuse at me, you can always live with that. But it became Eric, who was the heart and soul of the team, stepping away from the team, and the team had to go on.
The Rams were on the verge of the unthinkable. Eric Dickerson was on the block. Coming up.
You're worth was 3 number 1s, 3 number 2s, and 2 other running backs?
Well, I don't know. That's a lot, isn't it? We just have to wait and see.
We really don't have any of the details as to what Eric's been traded for, but we do know that Eric will be playing for the Colts on Sunday. He's catching a plane in about an hour and a half. Eric, what's your reaction to going to Indianapolis?
Well, I don't know much about Indianapolis, but
23 years before the decision, when LeBron James declared he was taking his talents to South Beach, Eric Dickerson told the same reporter on live TV that he was headed to Indianapolis, a trade he learned of himself an hour earlier.
Halloween 1987. Jim Gray was here at my house going to a Halloween party. I was dressed as an Indian chief, and the phone rang. Big E. I'm like, Coach? Yeah. He said, you want to come play for me? I'm like, I didn't know what Coach Meyer was. I didn't know he was even coaching. He said, I'm in Indianapolis. He said, we just made a trade for you. I'm like, okay.
I said, what's going on? He said, I can't go to the party, Jim. I'm sorry. I've been traded from the Rams, and they want me to play this weekend. I said, well, let's go to ESPN and do an interview and put this story on the air.
Went by a studio, I think right in Hollywood. We got stopped by the police. And Jim said, man, Eric just got traded. Traded? I mean, the police was shocked, too.
The guy let us go, and we got there right at the beginning of Sports Center. Eric gave me his clothes, which like 19 sizes too big for me, and he announced the whole thing.
I've always liked Coach Meyer. We've always been good friends, and he coached me in college, and I enjoy playing for him. I think that he'll really appreciate my talent that I have.
Oh, I went to the airport myself, Indianapolis, on Saturday morning and picked him up, brought him out to the complex, actually just packed his gear and packed number 29 and all this, and we flew off to New York to play the Jets.
Well, he's up in my room right now. He and I are going through handoffs.
I'm teaching him plays in my suite that night, and we used him extensively in the game.
What, Dick in?
Dick, get in there. We're on a 20 draw. Hurry up, hurry.
So Dickerson getting right to it.
I want Eric in there. Eric!
Dick, get in there. Complete. In the open field, Dickerson.
Go, baby! Go, baby! Hold on, all right. Great job, buddy. Great job. Come on. Hey, have some fun around here.
He put in 47 gap for me because I was used to running that play. He changed a lot of plays, to suit my style of running.
Strong start for that man, number 29, Eric Dickerson. And things have certainly turned for the Colt franchise.
We run the ball! Do we run the ball? Do we run the ball, Ron?
So now a city with a new team, and all of a sudden we get Eric Dickerson. The buzz goes from 0 to 100.
The big deal helped sell football in Indy, even if Dickerson was never sold on Indy himself.
Basically, no, I was not thrilled, but that was the only choice I had. So I had to try to act like I was pleased.
What's it like being an Indianapolis Colt?
It's good to be a Colt. I was a Mustang back at SMU. It was different, man. I mean, it was really different, let me say that. Really different.
And look, he was pretty much a diva. But he could back up being a diva. He was just the most remarkable player I ever played with.
In just 9 games, Dickerson rushed for over 1,000 yards, lifting the Colts to the AFC East title and their first postseason berth since 1977.
Trudeau on the delay gives it to Dickerson, trying to get outside, cuts up to the 30, he's at the 25, 20, 50, 10, 5,
That was the first time the Colts went to the playoffs in years. We went to the playoffs and played Cleveland, and that was because of Eric Dickerson. He took Indianapolis to a whole nother level.
Dickerson won another rushing title in 1988, his 4th, and became the fastest runner in NFL history to 10,000 yards.
One side cuts up the middle, 35, 30, 25, 30, 50, 10, 5, the first time in his career he scored 4 touchdowns in a game.
can't state this enough, how easy the game was for him. I never saw him in pain. I never saw him tired. I never saw him breathing hard. I never seen him ever tap himself out of a game. 30 carries, I got to take a blow. I never saw any of that. I'll never forget, we played Miami. It was Marino and it was Dickerson. It was maybe the two best players in the league, and it was a field goal game. And we get the ball with 4 minutes to go, and we literally handed it off to Eric 8 straight plays in a row. He kicked the winning field goal. And I'm telling you, in that last 8 plays that he ran, he didn't break a sweat. Like, he wasn't even breathing hard. And the next day in the training room, it was like nothing happened. He was just a genetic freak.
He was the Roboback, half man and half machine, the star with otherworldly talents, still criticized for his desire to be paid like it.
Well, how about you personally? If you had to play against him, how would you tackle him?
I'd throw money all over the field. When he bent down to pick it up, I'd jump on his back.
When he came back here, Eric got booed and he got jeered, and fans were throwing Monopoly money.
It was difficult. It was real difficult because I just felt like I should be on that sideline, but I was a coach.
Chandler gives the ball inside to Dickerson. Cuts it upfield. Touchdown, Eric Dickerson!
Eric did pretty well, but the Rams won, and I think that kind of ended it. The fans had their say. Eric obviously had his. He got the money. Unfortunately, he didn't get the better team in the trade.
It just started going downhill fast. And as the top player, they start pointing fingers at you.
But you have some out there, they want you to have 200 yards every game. If you don't, you're a bum.
Does Eric's, career get understated in Indy? Only because, we weren't a playoff team. He was still the league's best player. In '89, he was still on top of his game until he pulled a hamstring against Cincinnati. To my knowledge, it's the first time he's ever hurt.
Dickerson's kind of pulling up Lamb a little bit as he works his way out of the end zone.
A hamstring injury, you can't do anything. It's like running on one leg, basically. And I just could never, ever get it right.
Despite the injury, Dickerson finished the season with 1,311 rushing yards, the third highest total in the NFL. But he began to feel that few teammates would make the same sacrifice.
I remember him standing up at a meeting one day, and it was just pure arrogance. It was like, I'm a superstar, and I know it. And some of you out here ain't pulling your weight.
Once again, Dickerson tried to punch his ticket out of town.
Rather than stay in Indianapolis and take the pounding that I'm taking, I'd rather quit because
of your line?
I just can't. Yeah, if you want to say it, make it short. Yeah, I can't. It's like me taking a revolver and putting a bullet in and spinning around and sticking it to my head, and sooner or later, the trigger's gonna get me. The bullet's gonna come out and kill me.
See this whole thing crumble in front of him, I just think he thought, what am I doing here? How do I get out of this mess?
I wish we had better quarterbacks. And when we drafted Jeff George, I thought that was going to be the answer.
In 1991, it wasn't. The Colts started the season 0-9. Ron Meyer was fired, and the fans' ire turned to the team's highest-paid player.
It was hard. It was hard because, they let them hang signs up in the top of the stadium, and they don't make them take it down. This is your team. You deal with all that kind of stuff. The comments and, are you Eric Dickerson? You're not worth $2 million. Oh, my gosh.
Things bottomed out for Dickerson in a blowout loss to Cleveland, when he moved past Jim Brown into third place on the all-time rushing list. The hometown crowd booed.
Eric Dickerson has just moved into the third spot on the NFL's all-time rushing list with that carry.
That's when I started hating football. I didn't like it anymore. I said, I'm not coming back. I said, it's not a good spot for me.
In 1992, Dickerson returned to Los Angeles, this time with the Raiders.
I could still play, but it was just such a mess with that team with Al Davis.
He told me something that I didn't know. He told me that they promised him that they were going to trade me.
So they had us both there. They brought me there to mess with Marcus, which really pissed me off then. I can think of instances where I'd have like 100 yards at half, and they played 3 or 4 more plays.
If they take him out the second half, I got real questions about it.
It was so bad, some of the players said, man, Eric, why you sitting on the bench? I'm like, man, I don't know. You know?
When Eric is rushing so well, why do you take him out?
The following year, a neck injury in Atlanta put Dickerson on the sidelines for good. His NFL career was over, but he was not yet at peace with it.
In a sense, you love the sport, but I'd become to almost hate the sport. Love and hate. I mean, I thought it was a great sport, but I just hated what it made me feel about it and how I looked at it now. You know, and I was like, yeah, I'm ready to quit.
The best runners only see what is ahead of them. When Eric Dickerson retired in 1993, he was the second leading rusher of all time. But he was not as revered as the other greats on the list.
He wasn't Walter Payton. You know, Walter Payton was all about team and emotion and all that. Eric, it just seemed like, I'm just playing this game because I'm the best at it.
I'm not haunted by the things that I didn't do, like win a Super Bowl or have another 2,000 yards. My dad taught me that. He said, son, you can't look in the past. You got to make new memories, and that's what I've always been able to do.
In the summer of 1999, Dickerson was finally remembered more for his accomplishments than the circumstances that got him traded from 2 NFL teams.
We ride in a parade. I saw all the stuff, you picture everywhere. Now think about it, as a football player, you go to all these different cities. They booing you, you know, we hate you. That day, everybody loved you. That day, I almost started crying. I mean, I almost brought me to tears. I told Jack, I said, man, I feel like I want to cry. He said, don't start crying, make me cry.
Eric's life has come full circle. This is a guy who is grateful for what he had and where he is right now. There's no bitterness in Eric Dickerson. And he's not jealous or bitter about these guys today, even though he doesn't want his record to be broken.
Adrian Peterson is 208 yards shy of a 21:05 put up by Eric Dickerson.
I had 120 text messages. My phone is blowing up. Finally, I'm looking, it's Jackie Slater. What's up, Jackie? Man, what's going on? You watching this game? Man, they're trying to give him the record. They ain't tackling.
Now he's run for more than 2,000 yards.
I see, not gonna get it. I don't know, Eric. He's close to it.
Peterson will finish 9 yards short of the all-time single-season record.
Did I want him to break it? Absolutely not. If he had broke it, would I have been happy for him? For sure I would have.
It's been 30 years since he set the single-season rushing record. And now Eric Dickerson is able to share a love of the game he once hated.
Thank you, military, for what you do for all of us, keeping us safe. So thank you, men and women, for all you do.
Annually, Dickerson and his wife, Penny, host a football camp for military children at Camp Pendleton in California.
It's the Super Bowl, this is it. It's only one winner. Ain't no second place, only one winner.
He's one of the kids out there with a little bit of football knowledge, though.
Go, go, go!
For years, Eric Dickerson's decisions about football were driven by money. Now it's football that's giving him things money could not. He's reconciled with his former teams, receiving a Super Bowl ring from the '99 Rams and entering the Colts Ring of Honor. The value of his football life is best quantified by what it's given him.
When I loved it, I loved it. It was nothing better. It was nothing better for me to break in the open field and never look back over my shoulder. To this day, it's nothing that has consumed my life like football did. I mean, still right now, when it gets close to football season, I can tell it's getting close to football season. I said it the other day, I was driving on the freeway. I'm like, it's football time. And Penny said, how do you know? I said, I can smell it. It's like, I guess, a vampire smelling blood. I just know it's football time.